Welcome to season 3 of Flywheel Leadership. I'm excited to welcome Giuseppe Grammatico of GG the Franchise Guy. Giuseppe is a franchise veteran, coach, author, speaker, and consultant who simplifies the process of franchising and excels at guiding his candidates to the business model that best suits their desired lifestyle. Welcome, Giuseppe. Glad to have you here.
Graham, I appreciate it. Giuseppe Grammatico. It's a mouthful, and you nailed the name, so it's not an easy one.
Appreciate it. Before we move on to some of the other topics, I wanted to highlight one thing that I really liked is I saw a quote from, I believe it's from your book, Freedom Favors the Bold.
Right.
And then it goes on to say on your website, those bold enough to take action on their goals are the ones that realize the freedom boldness can deliver. I really like that. Any thoughts on kind of where that came from?
Yeah, I mean, it's a playoff of fortune favors the bold. It's a quote I always used. And fortune, for some people, it's like, well, does that mean money? And that's what, when you hear fortune, you think of money. So for me, it was freedom because I left Wall Street to have time we were growing our family, kids on the way. So I'm like, I wanted time freedom to be able to spend the time with them, not be on the bus on the way to New York. So that whole freedom, that's how we got into franchise freedom, and freedom favors the bold because it is a bold move to leave a job or to start a business and to invest and things like that. So it was kind of a spin on fortune favors the bold. So
love it. I'm excited to talk with you. We open up each show with Beyond the Bio segment. So, I'll ask a few questions about yourself beyond the kind of highlight reel as an opportunity to learn more about you and your business. So I guess let's start with the proudest professional accomplishment.
Proudest professional accomplishment, starting my first business. So I started off with a few side hustles. That's how I got into entrepreneurship. My family owned the restaurant. They started it. I worked in it. Had some side hustles, delivered flyers and detail cars and things like that. But opening up my first franchise back in 2007, and we were able to exit successfully in 2020. So just being able to stay in business for that length of time, it was not easy. I learned a lot about myself. It really tested me, but it made me who I am today. So just being able to stick with that business in some really high times and low times, with the economy and everything else going on, I would say that really is that first full time, started on my own. I think that was my biggest and most my proudest accomplishment.
Nice. What's your superpower, Giuseppe?
My superpower, it's a good one. My superpower is, the human to human relationship and follow up. I was asked this on a show a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Well, what's so different about your approach and what you do versus others throughout your entire career?" And I said, I'm organized and I follow up, and I cheat all day long. I use Google Calendar, I use AI for reminders, but I follow up with people. Someone asked me a question, I don't know it, I follow up. When someone would ask for a quote, I would always deliver, and I'm shocked as a consumer how many businesses don't follow up. I'll call five landscapers, three maybe will give me quotes, maybe 4 will show up and 1 will follow through. So, and I'm not picking on landscapers, but it happened not too long ago. So follow up in the human to human relationship, and always adding value where we can. I think that's my superpower.
That's an important point on follow up. It's
basic stuff.
So simple, yet
no one does
seems
it.
like a lost art at times. And I find it just amazing when somebody thanks you deeply for following up as if it was like this magical thing. It was like, no, I said I'd get back to you. That's what I'm doing, right?
Well, they're not used to it, right? You're setting the bar really high there.
Yeah. But I think that's an important point you make. So simple, but very important. Could you tell us about your business in 60 seconds, Giuseppe?
Yes, we help people achieve the American dream. We help people that are either business owners looking to diversify, but more, I guess the focus is corporate executives looking to leave their job, people coming out of the military veterans not knowing what to do next. We help them. We guide them through the entire process, what to consider, what a business is, what a franchise is, a business on training wheels, and really paint the picture of what that lifestyle could be. We level the playing field so we can empower them to make that next decision. So it's very overwhelming. There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to business and the risks in franchises and things like that. So we like to educate where we can and meet people where they're at.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit more about what a franchise really means? And I asked that question because I think as that comes up throughout our conversation, I want to make sure there's clarity on what that really means compared to maybe some either misconceptions or just generalizations out there that aren't exactly correct.
So a franchise is a business, just like any other business, except that it's a business on training wheels. A franchise, you had someone set up a company, proof of concept, the McDonald's, the Jersey Mike's, the Serve Pros, these large companies that we've all heard of. Someone tested the market, created a system so that they can expand nationally. So what a franchise really is it's a business model that has that playbook that you can follow. It's not easy. You still have to follow that system. You don't have to have experience for the most part in that business. You can, they're looking for that skill set. So I went from Wall Street to building services and maintaining buildings and properties. I had no experience there, but I had networking and sales skills. Those were the two things that met that franchise avatar. So it's not all fast food. It's not all $1 million investments. There's dog waste removal, business coaching. One of my favorites, senior care, where the investments are much less. You have tons of ways to fund it, including, believe it or not, if you qualify your retirement plan. Again, if you qualify, depending on where that money is, but it's a great way to give you an unfair advantage and open up a business relatively quickly. For myself, signed the franchise agreement, went to training, launched in 30 days, which is unheard of for a business.
Very nice. When it comes to leadership within the franchise world, can you tell me a little bit about your perspective on what's important there? Because I know, as a new franchise owner, there's so much that goes into it, right? Your head's spinning with all the different things that you got to get going, and as you talk about all the pressures of business. But then maybe you have a team of 1, 2, 5, and eventually 10, 20 or more, right?
Right.
Like, tell me a little bit about the leadership component and how important that is.
Two parts. Number one, and these are equally as important, before making that decision on a franchise, the franchisor, that's the person that created the franchise, you need to speak with their leader. So if you don't have a strong leader, that's going to be a problem. I call them the captain steering the ship. You want to know who they are. You want to meet with them in person or virtually, one-on-one. That's extremely important. And find out about the brand, find out about what's important, where the company is going, what they're going to be focusing on. For example, we're talking to a painting franchise. They're focusing on national accounts, business that could be referred in your area, which is absolutely huge. On top of all the marketing and everything else being done. So the leader of the franchise is number one. That's and doing it in this order because you want to make that decision based off of that. Followed by, every franchisee is a leader in their organization. You may be the only person involved when you get the business up and running. You may have staff. They may be 1099 contractors. Regardless of the situation, you are going to eventually grow this business. So whether you have a business coaching franchise and you have 10 coaches underneath you, you are a leader. You need to guide them. You need to make sure they're motivated. You need to make sure that they understand their roles, and if training needs to be done, retraining, it's all taken care of. You want to make sure that there's confidence in that, and they want to make sure that there's confidence in the leader, right? In order to manage and help them succeed and become successful. So two parts in the franchising world, but eventually, even though you're maybe a solopreneur, when you're starting, you need to be a strong leader. And those are, that's really important in managing a team, or else you're going to be running that business on your own 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and running yourself into the ground.
Definitely. And again, it's one of those concepts that seems so straightforward. Like, oh, eventually I'll have team members and I'll lead, but often not really thought about as far as like, how do you scale to a business that's actually sustainable beyond, Giuseppe doing everything from 6 to 6 or whatever the hours are, right? So important to think about as you grow your business. Would love
Absolutely.
to hear, what was the most impactful leader in your life and how they made an impact on you?
It's really my parents. We owned an Italian restaurant, and we didn't come from money, but what we did get, and we didn't go on vacation and have, we went on vacation once a year down in South Jersey. We didn't have lots of extra things, but over the and I guess maybe we didn't appreciate it as kids, but as we got older, growing up in the restaurant, my parents came to this country without any money and without speaking a word of English. I actually learned English at the age of I forget if it was 6 or 7. I got to confirm that, but just watching my parents lead a small organization, very very small team. We had under 10 staff in total, but just watching them, and not necessarily what was told to me, but just watching and absorbing it all. And again, didn't appreciate it then. Didn't feel like I just was looking at all my friends that maybe had the fancier stuff, the vacations and things like that. But going back, like, wow, these are the things that I did not learn in undergrad or graduate school. When I got my MBA, this is the stuff I learned firsthand. And when you work for a small organization, that leadership role, I think, really stands out because, number one, you have access to the leader. And yes, it was my parents or my dad that was really running the show. But you get access to them. You can ask questions. You can see how they interact with staff. It's not easy. You're dealing with staff. You're dealing with customers. Sometimes they're happy. Sometimes they're not. Usually when they're not, they like to be a little louder and vent. So just watching the way they organize things, the way they got the business up and running, it set the bar really high for me. And I'm like, wow, if someone with all these disadvantages came in to a country that he didn't speak a word of English and was able to make this work, that's pretty damn impressive. So that is truly, there's lots of leaders and people I follow, and they're great. I have their books and podcasts, but who made the biggest impact? It's definitely my parents.
That's amazing, Giuseppe. Thank you for sharing. Takes me back to some of my days growing up and watching my dad lead companies and things of that nature. So very very cool.
You appreciate it later, So
right.
For the kids listening in, you'll eventually appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it then, or maybe not as much as I do today.
So true. And you really find yourself once you get to that maturity level. So for some that may be 16, for some that may be 35, whatever, right?
Yep.
You realize, oh, that's where I learned that.
Right.
I didn't think so. I didn't value it at the time, but now I get it. Right.
And then you start sounding like your parents, as we were talking about, and complaining about technology, and I can't figure out certain things, and I'm going to the kids. So yeah, dating ourselves here.
So true. Anything else you want to call out about your mission?
My mission is very simple. I want to empower people, level the playing field, and helping people in their transition. Simply put, my job is not, as 𝙁𝙧𝙖𝙘𝙚𝙝 says, I have nothing to sell. Our services are free. We're paid like we're compensated like a real estate agent. So there's no out of pocket. There's no contract to anyone we were able to help. I cover the entire U.S. and Canada. And I want to educate people and inform people that you don't need to be a millionaire, come from wealth. You don't need to buy a fast food restaurant, like the big names out there for 7 figures or more. You got options out there. Believe it or not, you can actually keep your job and run a business on the side, what we call semi-absentee. Is it easy? No. Are there extra costs? Sure. You're going to need a general manager in place. And do all franchise brands allow it? No, as well. So that's where I assist in knowing, who is able to assist and who it would actually work for. But I want to let everyone listening that you have options. You're not stuck. If you hate your job, I'm not saying quit your job, but start exploring. If you don't have time, make time. That's BS. Excuse my French. I worked in the city. I used to grab a conference room during lunch. I brought my lunch, which was a pain to make at 5 a.m., but I ate really quick, grabbed the conference room and made my calls. I did my calls sometimes on the streets of Manhattan with the sirens, in the background. If you can't make time to do the research, how are you going to run the business? So get creative, speed things up, use AI, do whatever you have to do, block off your calendars to protect that time. If you really want something, you'll make it work. And business ownership is not for everyone. The grass is not always greener. But if you want change, if you want to build wealth and time freedom, I don't know of any other way aside from some type of entrepreneurship, some type of vehicle. And I could say that from creating it myself. My biggest win is that my son started playing soccer at the age of 4. He's turning 18 in November. I became a soccer coach, and to date, I've never missed a soccer game. That's my success. My success, I could talk numbers and types of businesses and all that stuff. To me, I could care less about that. The vehicles helped me get today. We have a nice lifestyle, but more importantly, never missed any personal events. My daughter's Girl Scouts and recitals when she was much younger, never missed anything. That's my success, and that's what I'm able to help people achieve and accomplish.
Very nice. And when it comes to the compensation you talked about, so the fees, thank you for mentioning that, because I think that's important. I've had some really good experience with variations of franchise coaches. Not saying that's exactly like you, but it's something similar model, right? So your revenue comes from those actual franchisors. Is that how that works?
Correct. The franchise company, in the event you were to invest in a franchise, the franchisor pays us a referral fee, and that fee comes directly to us. There's no cost. It doesn't change the investment, and essentially they are working with us to bring them qualified candidates, qualified families that will meet the requirements, the liquidity, net worth. Do they meet the franchise avatar versus the thousands of people that contact them online? My promise is that once we do find some brands and get super, super granular and specific, that franchisor is going to contact you within usually 24 business hours. Most people I know from experience, and I talked to today, you submit something online to a franchisor, there's probably a 90+% chance you won't even get a response, maybe an auto reply, because for the most part, they're getting bombarded. They don't know if you're qualified, and a lot of states are completely sold out. So they may, putting the state in there, they may rule you out from that. So we're able to really get granular, find the fits out there, and you'll be shocked at some of the industries out there.
That's really beneficial for those that are really looking for that direction. Giuseppe, could you share a story where it's kind of like the way you would love to see it work out, where you talk with someone, they're in whatever situation, coming back to the purpose of your business, and it's all just kind of worked out. Could you share a specific story on someone that you're comfortable with sharing?
Yeah, so I had worked with someone. I'm going to keep their name confidential, but in northern New Jersey, worked for a large publicly traded company. There were some layoffs, and he was almost glad, to have lost a job, because he was absolutely miserable, but he was able to accumulate, nice net worth, some cash and investments and things like that. They gave quite a bit of company stock, and he was completely lost. Younger guy, late 20s, and heard me on a podcast and said, you know what, I connect with Giuseppe. I want to learn a little bit more. And, he was one of those, I'm very early stage in the process. I don't even know what questions to ask. So we talked about all his different options. Now I'm compensated one way, and that's a franchise referral, but that's not the advice I give, because in many cases, I could say, yeah, sure, buy a franchise. Well, the franchisor is going to come back and say, well, we don't feel like you're a good fit because of X, Y, and Z. So what's the purpose in doing that? So, we put him in touch with some other individuals. He's like, do you know a recruiter? Maybe I want to go that route. I said, all right, yeah, we have individuals that can help with LinkedIn, maybe helping you find a job. What are you trying to accomplish? He was getting married later in that year, or the following year, excuse me. He said, I want to make sure that I'm around for my family and kids, and basically your same story. So I said, will a job give you that? And he's like, well, probably not. Since I'm in New Jersey, I'm probably going to be commuting into New York City. So we talked about, what a business was. And yes, there were risks, but these are calculated risks, right? A franchise has a system that helps to lower the risk. And I told him, well, we would look for companies that meet your requirements, the investment, the time commitment, the expansion strategy and things like that. So he was crystal clear and comfortable with it. So fast forward a year and a half, he purchased a large market in the water and smoke restoration space, is doing well, potentially looking to expand the business either via geography or maybe a bolt-on complementary business. And what's key, because we talk quite a bit, is that he wanted time freedom. And I said this to him, and he confirmed this after the first year. You do not experience time freedom right away. You got to build the system up. So people get all excited. Well, I'm going to launch a franchise and then I'm going to watch it grow. No, the franchisor doesn't run it for you. So he said that first year was rough, but I told him, builder year, you're running it full time. You're finding the right staff. You had to let go of one or two people. you're reinvesting all the profits back in for additional vehicles and marketing and things like that. And he agreed. He said, once I got the first year under my belt, it's not easy, but now I have not just the people, but the systems in place so that I can back off. He just took a trip overseas for 10 days, 18 months into a business. That's pretty impressive. And he's now getting back his time and thinking of starting a family. So it was nice to hear the follow-up, because I can get you to the franchisor. You have to make that decision. You have to actually follow their system and be well capitalized, and we go through a lot of things like that. But to hear him come back saying it worked, you just got to give it time and set the expectation that you're not going to make a ton of money the first year and experience time freedom until you start growing it going into that second and third year. So it's refreshing to hear those stories. Not everyone is successful. We can't force people to follow the franchise system. Some people don't follow the system. Some people, they're undercapitalized, or they try to pay themselves too aggressively that first year. And I said, well, if you're paying yourself X, you must be taking away from Y. And that's usually the marketing. And if you're not spending on marketing, well, where are you getting your lead flow? So our job is to find that match, but ultimately it is up to that individual to truly follow that system. And it's rewarding. It's the best part of my job, to have someone call me back and say, thank you. It is working well. And now I'm looking to expand and grow into something else. So it's really rewarding.
Thanks for sharing. Stories like that are powerful and really keep you going and give you energy to continue to help others. What is one thing that you've changed your mind on over the span of your life or career?
One thing I've changed my mind on, I'll tie this into maybe a mistake and something I kind of learned, is that when I first started, I thought I had to be the expert in all areas. I thought I had to know marketing and social media, which was 20 years ago, not what it is today, and we didn't have AI. So I thought I had to be the expert in all areas. I was wearing all the hats for probably a longer time than I should have. And I had hired a business coach over and beyond what the franchise company was offering. And they did a great job, but I needed some help in balancing everything, both personally and professionally, with time and owning the calendar and things like that. And they said, your job is to find the best talent and oversee that. Mark Cuban talks about that. Mr. Wonderful, I'm a big Shark Tank fan. And that was the mistake I made. And that really, I think, hurt my growth initially that first year. But when I hired people that would do one thing and it was just marketing and social media, I'm like, wow, I don't have to deal with it. And they know it so much better than me. Why was I trying to be the best at everything? So as an entrepreneur, you're essentially recruiting the best talent. Yes, the franchise company brings systems in place and they handle a lot of it for you, but certain franchises may not do the marketing for you. They give you the assets, and you have to deploy those assets and post and do podcasts and things like that. So once I hired staff, I hired a general manager that was in the building service business for almost as long as I was alive at the time. He just was living and breathing that space. I learned so much from him. He brought a lot of things to my attention that I wasn't aware of, and it was refreshing to have that other kind of perspective. So, recruit the best talent. Your job is to oversee. It's not to be best in sales or best in marketing. And you're going to see your talk about stock market growth 5-10%. I didn't see 5 or 10% growth. I saw exponential growth. 200-300% growth, whether it be not necessarily revenue, but we saw huge profitability because we were able to look at all the I call them the leaky sinks and say, wait, we got to close that. We got to cut that off, or we don't need that. So we saw profitability rise, and in return was able to compensate my general manager via phantom equity, which is also something that I learned over the years, and really rewarding your key players cut of the profits. And that's a mistake I made, I fixed, and I coach everyone I work with not to make those same mistakes.
Very good. Anything you want to touch on that I haven't asked you about?
We have not touched on. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck in their businesses. They are wearing all the hats and doing everything. And, reading the book, E-Myth Revisited, great book. And the second book that had a big impact on me was Traction by Gino Wickman. It's the entrepreneurial operating system. Systems are what create businesses. Systems are put into place to automate things. Everyone knows what their roles are, and there's follow through. Did you miss this step in the process? Well, that's why we're not closing business. Let's review it together, and not just telling people what the systems are, listing it out, so all those employees and staff or departments have that. And I think systems are what helps you create not just financial freedom, which we all want, but that time freedom in order to step away from the business. If I want to take off from the business, I have systems in place that are following up. I utilize AI agents to stay in touch with people. You don't want a business that just stops the day you leave the office. So, and in part of systems from an exit strategy standpoint, that makes a huge difference. If you are pulling as a full-time owner working 80 hours a week, 100K in seller discretionary earnings, what you're pulling out, and you're like, you know what, I want a 3 multiple. I'm going to sell that business for 300,000. You're not going to get 300,000. A typical buyer will come in, not want to work 80 hours a week, and say, you know what, we're going to have to hire a manager to replace you, the owner that's selling the business, and they're going to get paid 50. So your earnings are only 50 times 3, which is 150,000. So and I saw that firsthand talking to other individuals that thought they can save all the money by doing the work themselves. And the new owner did not want to step into an 80-hour-a-week role. That's not the purpose of business ownership. So be very careful, and you want to learn the business and use the first year as the opportunity to do so. But create the systems one by one, whether it be a simple automation strategy, a simple way to stay in front of customers, an assistant bookkeeper that's scheduling, follow up, handling the no-shows, which is something we're implementing as we speak, and really so that you can focus on the big picture stuff. Because you only have 24 hours in a day. And if you're going to spend time 2 hours a day dealing with emails and complaints and stuff like that versus 2 hours on the golf course or at a networking event where now you're growing that business exponentially, setting up relationships with property managers in order to obtain other buildings to service, don't lose sight of the big picture of why you're doing it. And that will help you grow your business exponentially once you're out of the weeds and those key employees and those systems are in place. So definitely a franchise gives you an advantage there. You still have to implement it, right? The systems are in place. You still have to find the staff, which they will help you and, help you kind of combine it all together. So a franchise will definitely give you that advantage, but you still have to follow through via traction and EOS. You have to still monitor the KPIs. And if the numbers are off, stop what you're doing, go back to the franchisor. This isn't working. Get your salesperson on the line and say, okay, we need to figure this out. Average close ratio across the system is 50%. We're at 30. Is it elite quality? Is it a sales thing? Is it a combination? Address it as it comes up. Don't wait until the end of the year. Sometimes it's these little minor tweaks that you can handle. So that's really it. And at the end of the day, bet on yourself. You live once. You look at the time we have on this earth, and we need to truly enjoy it. So enjoy the journey, not just worry about the destination. Enjoy getting there, and get into a business that really fits your lifestyle goals and what an average day in the life looks like for you.
Well said, Giuseppe. How can the audience best find you or follow you and your company?
So GG, my initials, thefranchiseguide.com. You got a couple options. You can book a call directly with me. My service is free. It's 20 minutes video chat just like this. We'll figure out together if a franchise may or may not make sense. And if the time is right, or maybe it's something we revisit later, but I guarantee you'll walk away learning something. Not ready to chat? You can download my book, Franchise Freedom, 30-minute read, my exact blueprint to finding a franchise and setting up your first initial business. We have FAQs, we have webinars, we have a lot of great resources, but I say the top two are booking a call, learning immediately, saving the time and the research to see if it makes sense. And then if not, the book, it's, as I mentioned, about a 30-minute read, breaks down the team you should be building, what you should be looking for in a franchise. And at the end, how are we funding this thing? How are we paying for it? So those are great resources. It is all free. I sell the book on Amazon, but you can download it for free on the website.
Very nice. I asked the same closing question with all our guests. What do you want those you have worked with to say about your impact on them?
I want them to come back and say, I enjoyed working with Giuseppe. He opened me up to breaking free of the corporate shackles, to really, open up my mind to what else was out there, and give me the freedom to make that choice. Now, I can't make those decisions for them, but just essentially a mindset shift, giving them the opportunity to say these are different ways of perspectives of looking at things. I was looking at real estate or franchising, which is better. Well, they have nothing to do with one another. They're great vehicles, and you should explore everything. But ultimately, pick your bread and butter, whether that's real estate full-time, franchising, and you can always, from the proceeds, invest in real estate syndication, the stock market. But really, I gave them that perspective to really push themselves into asking more of themselves, to really understanding that there's a risk, that their job was as risky as the business. You're not really diversified with that one income stream, and you can lose it any day. So I know this is going off a little bit, but how to create a safety net with the franchise in the event of the next layoff. So I'm just looking to make an impact in people's lives. Sometimes I really move people and motivate them, and they don't buy a franchise, and that's okay, as long as they figured out that maybe the fit wasn't there, but they typically refer me their family and friends, and which I have conversations with all the time. So it's really the impact, the change in how they view things, the job versus the business. And from there, I don't take any credit. If you're extremely successful, that's on you. It's the hard work and dedication. I'm just getting you to that right vehicle and showing you what's out there. So any impact I can make is rewarding enough for me.
Good deal. Giuseppe Grammatico, GG, the franchise guide. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you sharing.
Thanks, Ram. It was fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.